Okay, general messages. Not sure where to start first. Like there were 4 different decks that I pulled the cards from. So let's start in the order of how I did it. This kind of like was the first one. So that kind of like really kind of like came to me like in a rush. Like really kind of like I felt really good. Both of them. Milky Way, given that we are going through the period of Libra transit. No guys, this is not reading for Libra. This is reading for all signs. We are simply going from the end of September till the end of October through the transit of Libra, meaning Libra people have their birthday, I believe, starting 20th to 20th. So Milky Way, as you know, the Earth is part of this kind of like whole sets of galaxies that are kind of like all swirling. And just like when you compare that like with hurricanes and with tornadoes, like kind of like eye of the storm, they are enormous, right? So this one over here that shows a little dot, this is our solar galaxy over here. So you can just imagine how a small dot Earth is, and then how much smaller, non-existent to our eye dot is basically makes us. So I really think this kind of like is telling us to shed our ego, to kind of like understand the process that we are part of one big thing. And especially in the West, we are living with individualism, which I, as an Aquarius, really love. But we are kind of like forgetting that pushing in one way is completely neglecting the other, right? Because look what is happening right after gaining this perspective, after understanding, well, you know what? Even if I hate you, if I harm you, actually I'm harming myself. It's like, you know what they say, you know, you cut your nose to spite your face. I think it might be actually a healing period. Keep in mind that Libra is all about bringing things in balance. It's kind of like really important, the transition we are going through. And then we are getting Waterfall as a follow-up card. Actually, 2 of them came out together. And so look at this cascading, beautiful kind of like falls coming out here. And I don't think there is any one of us coming in a sunny day on the edge of this, kind of like in saying, oh my gosh, I'm not being taken by this. I'm not feeling really relaxed. But I really feel that these 2 cards combined is basically sending us message that maybe we are coming to the edge of our comfort zone, and we are finding ourselves maybe fighting to resist moving past, you know, that, I don't know, perceived precipice. What is next? Where do I go forward? Maybe kind of like we went on like using our way so far on the ledge, and now we have to figure out who we are, how we can be, what we can become, and what we can do. So I think like coming to the spirit messages, spirit is asking us to step beyond that edge. You know, like that's a Fool card in tarot. The entire tarot is basically based on the Fool as the card. That's the God that is descending, as above so below. And here it's like Regis perspective. If you're struggling, then something is not effortless. So allow yourself to do so with ease rather than struggle, right? So I get it that at times like physical exertion is necessary, but when kind of like we are performing things with fluidity and grace, like even when something seems to be very kind of like daunting, then we actually really find that, you know, the movement is actually making us kind of like move effortlessly. It looks like that we are going to, because Libra is about communication. Don't forget that, yes, they are like lovey-dovey sign, but it is about communication. So in this like very kind of like tribal world that we are currently living in, I feel this is a great news, right? So remember, if from all this entire reading, from all the signs for your sign, you have to remember something. Remember that approach the present situation or relationship with awareness and grace. Don't try to make it effortless, because it's going to just like be more and more kind of like strain in all of that. Allow. So when you're going to conversation with somebody, just allow things to happen. No matter what they say, yeah, if they irritate you, just let this like flow, because guess what happens with the waterfall? It always kind of finds its way to the ocean, right? Nothing is really barrier. It's kind of like if you have something that is an obstacle, you just like flow around that. So you're going to find that ultimately you come to those calm waters. So it's kind of like really interesting because this card is usually kind of like referring to solar plexus and our breath. So solar plexus is in that navel region. It's really talking about our confidence. It is like really talking in boundaries that we set with other people, right? So breathing is also very, very important, given that we have both air and water. And that's kind of like both suggesting to me that kind of like oxygen. We need to kind of like put things in perspective. Maybe like too much oxygen has been taken out of the room. Maybe we have like some situations where we kind of like feel all we are like talked out. And then I saw these two, which kind of like almost like reinforce this, because now we are dealing with heart chakra and with solar plexus chakra, right? Like gossip card is like really talking about kind of like really trying to find, probably like for maybe once, like it's telling me certainly that we have people who are like really not very savory, that kind of like could be in our surroundings, and we kind of like maybe need to kind of like deal with this, like, because there are some people who are definitely all about prejudice and all about misunderstanding, and we have to find what is inside of us that we are resisting. If people who are like this don't make you angry, then you have to ask yourself why. Because anger is an emotion that has been built inside of us for a reason. And in this society, we are being discouraged of being angry, because anger can, as we know, lead to really kind of like devastating actions. But anger really kind of like gives you that sort of like pointers. This is kind of like red flag that something is wrong. And this is kind of like, to me, clearly talking about that we have to find what basically we find in the others. Is that bothers us, that they're very unique and they're not like us, or they're doing something that is like so out there that is just like it's not supposed to be tolerated. So maybe it's the other way around, that other people are not supporting your vision, that maybe there is like some kind of like lack of appreciation. So there is like a complete need to kind of like refocus your life, because this card is called Facade. And this is really talking about reclaiming your life, because look at him, he's like walking on the clouds. He is like literally kind of like descending and kind of like understanding, hey, give me a hand, kind of like, let's kind of like do this together. This also kind of like talks to me about childhood pain. And I know we don't kind of like wake up and say, I have to today deal with the childhood pain. Like, this is not how it really works. But more or less the childhood pain kind of like results, kind of like manifests in everyday things, like how we approach relationships, how we deal with relationships, who are people around us, why are those people around us, etc., etc., etc. So sometimes we are making decisions out of that pain that we don't even notice, that basically has been brewing all these years, and we are simply just mirroring it on the person who is like nearby. Right? So that's kind of like an issue, which I think it's going to be, and maybe this is also part that we need to put in perspective, how much of all this thing that is going on in our life is something that we created, right? Like, so take responsibility. I really think it's really important, because it's kind of like interesting that we didn't get Justice card, but we did get Integration for the Libra passage, which, check it out. Like, what is not in balance here? Look at this. A swan and an eagle. Which one is more important bird? One is like a visionary, and one is like so beautiful and graceful, just like going back to that grace. There is like this lotus flower. There is like this Merkaba, right? Little Merkaba, which is kind of like a theory that we are actually, each one of us, in part of inside of one of these, and that's how we receive our healing, through basically our spinal cord, right? And also there is like this yin and yang over here. As you can see, they're like the opposites, but even each of them contains a little bit of the other, right? So this is basically telling me that with everyone we can find something to break the bread with, right? And I think we have to go in that direction, even if it's a minuscule, even if it's like literally simple as just have a meal, let's just not talk, but we enjoy both food, something basic. That's kind of like really about merging the opposites, sun and the moon. This card, traveling, is the card about basically, you know, path. As you can see, whatever this horseman is, this kind of card is really talking about enjoying the travel, not the destination. It is reversed though, so I'm really telling myself that maybe destination is important. Maybe it is important, like, I mean, who we want to become, in which direction we really want to go, who do we, like, you know, like if you're making a sculpture, if you're making a sculpture, I cannot talk, then like you're starting with some kind of like major shape, and then you're kind of like putting things out like eyes and nose, let's say if it's the head, right? So you kind of like know what your goal is. So that vision, like, hey, you know what, like maybe I kind of like started with focus too much on the eye, and now this eye is too big, this one is too small. Why not to kind of like try to keep that big perspective and just like keep going with kind of like these instincts? It almost looks like that we are all going to make a conscious choice to be better. And then this card showed up and poised, and this is like, whoa, look at this, so lovely. In fact, in the traditional card rendition of this card integration, it's called Temperance. And it's like talking about this basically merging of the opposites, merging of finding in the middle of patience, right? This kind of like really reminds me also, like kind of like there is this angel, kind of like, which is kind of like here mixing a silver and gold, right? I really think this is like talking about being ready and bringing something to light and being at your best and kind of like confidence, and that's happening only when we kind of like shed kind of like things that are not good in us, when we realize, this person is doing this, I don't like this in this person, but do I do this? Oh yeah, I have to kind of like check that in me, sort of a thing. So be ready for anything right now in this period. It's kind of like going to be really interesting because you will be very confident and people will be responding to the confidence. And it's kind of like when you're in the zone, you tend to have less friction, right? So like everything becomes like more kind of allowing and more gracious. And kind of like, let's say rich people can afford to give a better tip. So that kind of like feeling is going to permeate this entire month. So after this general part, let's start with the individual side. Hello Aries, and welcome to October Aries. So let's see what we have. We have make the effort. That's really self-explanatory for you. I really don't have to go into it. But let's see, what is this all about? Like you have in Lenormand the dog, the whip, the snake, the lilies, and the stork. And we are on this subject. I had a woman who actually made a comment on the previous videos when I said I'm going to start reading Lenormand reversals as well. And things come with time. Things come when you actually are seeing a need for it. There is like no set rules, nobody left instructionals for Lenormand, but she looks like she felt she is somehow in charge. She came to tell me, no, you can't read Lenormand reversed. That's only for tarot. Well, thanks, sweetie. Please go to the other channel. So let's start. You have a few really good things, and I really feel I have this Aries energy today. Like really, I have been dealing like with idiots and stupid the all day long, and it's like something I absolutely hate, right? I don't mind helping. I'm very patient with people who basically deserve to be helped, but when you have this self-serving kind of a thing, oh my god, trust me, you would not like me at all. Kind of like, I have no patience for this. This is why I'm not commercializing this channel. Everything is done one woman show for a reason, that I really want to help people. And it's kind of like little prima donnas. Please go, go, go. So you guys, I'm already seeing something over here. Make the effort, but there is the snake, there are the lilies, there is the stork reversed. So something from the past, it's coming back. It is like really, really weird. I have to say, I have been having this channel for like now a year and a half. There are lots of like these past involvements, and I was like really reading lots of kind of like these spiritual channels, etc. What the heck is this? An ice cream? It's like cold today. And it's okay. So we have to read everything. You see, you don't read only cards, you read everything. So this is like kind of like, hey, if you just get mad and all worked up, just like stop and smell the roses. They're like such a beautiful and relaxing things in life. Anybody wants an ice cream? What's your favorite? I like pistachio. Let me close the window. Anyway, if you didn't check the other videos, if you're not cross-watching, let me introduce you to my prop. This is like a cutie little unicorn that is kind of like here to help us and assist us. So it's going to be here with us just in case we need it. So you guys, you're kind of like, as I was saying, kind of like something from the past keeps being recycled, not only for your sign, for signs across the board. And it is kind of like really strange, because I was just about to tell you that from all my kind of like philosophical and spiritual readings, like all these people are kind of agreeing we are not passing 2100. We are not seeing the future. All these seers, right? Baba Yaga and all these people who have like this supernatural kind of like things. And you know, like there is like this pineal gland that looks like, of course, like a pine cone. In Vatican, there is like a big statue of the pine cone. Is this a coincidence? And there are like lots of things that just like these coincidences don't add up anymore. There is like also pineal gland, kind of can look like an eye of Horus, and it's kind of like many beliefs. Of course, we have certain kind of like things that we don't know. Majority, in fact, medical doctors have no clue. They're more or less still treating the symptoms versus knowing how things function. But we're tapping in the dark. I think that's the idea, to find out. But that kind of like gland is really interesting, because now they're finding, and did experiments on mice, that it actually does get active when we are dying. You remember, like these people at tunnel and experience and everything going on. And that's kind of like really important to understand, that we kind of like have this like direct kind of like source. We have like direct connection to the above, to heaven, to spirit, to whatever you want to call it, right? So I'm just like really wondering if this is just like simulation. If we are working the simulation, it would make sense. I don't know if guys, you are as old as I am. Holodeck kind of a thing was like always like for me, oh my gosh, that would be just the best entertainment. You can just walk in a different room and you have everything perfect. So lots of past seems to be happening, maybe because of that. We are not recycling everything that we have. We are not using the same clothes, but looks like we are putting sort of like bows on things that have been happening, that we had lots of past lives happening. Because that's actually what I'm seeing here for you. You're having something that is extremely atypical for your sign. Aries is a sign that I have in a little finger. Trust me, my little brother, well, he's not that little, just a year younger, but he always was a little, you know, that like, I mean, girls kind of like grow much faster than boys, and it was always like, right, you gotta listen to me, you gotta do what I say, right, etc. So I do know that temperament very well. So King of Chalices, King of Cups, look at this energy. It is almost like the opposite of that kind of like, I know what I'm doing, and rah, rah, kind of like energy, the way I started this video anyway. So the King of Cups basically is a person who has experienced the very best and also the very hardest that life offers. So these experiences like actually reside in a heart, right? And this is kind of like the connection in this card with creativity. So there is like somebody who is like, I mean, strong silent type, and hello, that's not you. That's why I'm wondering who the heck is it, right? And also we have the Chariot here reversed. It could be somebody you have been dealing with, somebody who is now ready, right? Because this person kind of like has this kind of like artistry in his basically heart, and kind of like is really waiting for the really right moment to kind of like activate. This king is not going to be cruel. This is a really nice king. But if there is a conflict, then that conflict that is kind of like created is actually even creating a stronger sense of purpose. That kitty is white after all. White in tarot symbolizes purity. And you also have, if you notice, other cards that are white. And also in the card Chariot, there is like also a white kitty also trying to chase these peacocks, one being completely albino and one, well, let's call them normal peacock if you really wish. So I really think this is really talking about somebody extending heart to somebody and support and guidance if possible. It's going to be like certain playful qualities you can hear with my little ice cream truck somewhere around the building, right? So it's going to be feeling that this month that you're not alone, that you know we are like all here for a reason. There is like something bigger going on. This instinct is really typical for your sign, but it looks like that maybe things were happening in your life that you were exposed to two-faced people. They were telling you one thing, they were doing another thing, right? But this card also is really telling me that actually your instincts are actually finely tuned right now, and your journey is guided. So don't just like get off this reading and oh, whatever, you just like checking out a tarot reader. In the end, you don't even know, you cannot comprehend this information. At least just do one a day, because this card is saying you guys need to trust yourself at this point. You need to do your homework. You shouldn't just meander like a leaf in a river. You actually do have this ability. And the reason why I'm here on my channel is because I don't really want to entertain you. I really want to help you. I really want to show you where is left and where is right on this kind of like, let's say, river of life. So this is also talking about mastery of letting go and moving on. And if you are trusting yourself that you are either ready to keep going and continue in your direction, or you still really want to go and revisit something from the past, it is like clearly some kind of like awakening. It is an emotional awakening. Like you're having here this dog card. The dog card is, of course, about loyalty, about friends. But then the whip and the snake, and I don't know like which other sign got that same combination, but I believe they got it upright. This can actually talk about arguing with exes, or maybe somebody is just like being completely disloyal and having a third party over here, which the snake can mean. But the lilies is kind of like talking about healing energy. This could be somebody who has gray hair, who might be older, or who might be a professional, somebody like you really look up to, right? So it can actually talk about counselor, and this actually even can be a tarot reader, right? The lilies is a really good card for healing. It is really usually talking about reunions with the old kind of like flames, and usually these reunions happen after, let's say, some kind of like time of turmoil, right? This also can talk about sort of like more than just two people. It can talk about family and, you know, friends being involved, morality and maturity, but also these two cards can talk about sizzling passion and lots of sex. So I really think also you have the stork. that somebody from the past, you see the storks are of course talking about babies. Let's kind of like talk about thing, but like coming back this way. So is there somebody who you're with? So babies talk lots of things. Like babies could be little human babies, but can talk about projects and hopes, you know, like it's kind of like two people come together, they're creating this very unique energy that stops the moment when you're no longer together, because the flames are not happening anymore. Nothing really kind of like supports it. This is why it's very important that both people have their flame, their say in a relationship, right? So this is like really telling me that old flame is returning. And this also can be somebody from like way back. So child can mean that you might have a child with this person, the child is involved, that there is like something unfinished business that is happening in all of that, or even that you have been a child when you met this person. So, you know, when we get older, we kind of, oh my gosh, don't even get me about dating. It's kind of like really bad out there. Everybody seems to be, who is hurt, who doesn't know what they want, who is just testing, who is insecure in the relationship. They're like on the dating sites. How do you weed through all this basically crapola, right? And everything seems to be marketing. So what happened to basically a being nice person, etc., and the person who is going to hold your hand? This is my definition. I want to kind of like grow old with somebody who is going to hold my hand on the bench when I'm 80 years old. So there you go. You see, Aquarians can be romantics as well. So keep in mind all of that, but when you date somebody from before, many of these stressors are alleviated. Many of these stressors become kind of like new directions, where, for example, let's say you're 50 years old and you were dating somebody when you were 18 or 20, and you meet them at the age of 50 again. You will never see them at the age of 50. Yeah, you're going to notice, like, yeah, they have a few wrinkles, crinkles, the hair is not there, a little tummy, but immediately you're going back to the spirit that has been there all along. And I kind of like do see that to some extent over here. So let's see. Wow, now you have a Queen of Swords, and she's reversed. So Queen of Swords, when she's reversed, she gets ticked off. Like I get ticked off when people want to coach me on how I should do stuff that I'm doing for 25 years. It's like, no, you're not supposed to warm up milk like that. You're supposed to have this temperature. So she tends to cut things out, kind of like you go here, and please close the door behind you, kind of a thing. And this is stuffy kicking in here. And then we have the Two of Swords. So why do you have swords? Two of Swords is like one of those blindfolded things. And I really like her rendition in this deck. First of all, there is like this reflection of a moon. Which one is real? Which one isn't? She doesn't even know. If somebody tells her there is the moon, well, the gravity would help if she understands the gravity. But here it is like really talking about making a hard decision. Basically not really willing to walk this tightrope. Something, it's almost like forced. You know, like when you're a child, like you have to eat your veggies, etc. Kind of like it feels this way, that decision has to be made that is really not easy. So let's see what is this all about. I guess I will need to clarify this, but guys, you are really developing your psychic powers. Look at this water that you have here, fire and water. It's either steam or volcano. So the base is like 7 of Wands. I know it kind of like looks a little bit kind of like strange when you see the kitty hissing and kind of like doing all these things. Let me just show you here. Is it going to clear at some point? I guess not. Hello camera, there you go. But look at this, the kitty is on a little elevated spot over here. As you can see it from the other sticks, they don't actually reach the kitty out. And also there is like this kind of like arch. I'm much bigger than I am, and I am at my goal. This card is extremely powerful card, and I like it. Plus it's a fire, you'll like it too. It kind of like means holding your ground and saying, look, I got here, it took me forever to get here, It is like usually describing a person who is working really hard to get somewhere, and you finally, let's say, you get there. Let's say you earn that position in a company, you get this promotion, and now everybody wants to knock you down because maybe they think it was easy, of course, and somebody else does it. It's always easy, right? It's just like we work really hard. But it's sort of like a thing, you know what I'm talking about over here, right? So this is kind of like intensity that I'm hearing, that I'm hearing. I'm obviously auditory type, and I'm seeing that here. On one hand, you're completely opening your heart, but only to people who are worthy of it. So make the effort is going to be very, very selective. Like my brother says, he is my Aries brother. He kind of like sees his entire life as a game. I mean, of course, guys and their Nintendo and games. He goes, I don't have extra lives. I have only one life. So I don't have this much time to waste because I don't have that extra life to burn. So I always in this life make this decision. Is this good kind of like investment of my time? Kind of like really, really good advice to go by. Who would say that younger brother is like so smart? So the past, again, swords. But it's good that it's in the past. You're leaving some upset back. Look at that. The swords are coming from all the sides. Look at all these elements. Elements are coming. Everything is happening at the same time. Maybe you, like you see these two things, it's telling me that something has been happening that it was like really, really hard to resolve. Something was going on that you couldn't put your finger on. That each time you thought you would find a solution and you would find agreement, that something was going on, something would happen. And hence, I guess you decided, okay, that's it. I am standing my ground right here and I'm not moving from this point on. So what is above you? Oh my gosh, King of Swords. Why are you getting all the swords? Your energy is at the peak, so no wonder that I had issues today preparing for your reading. It was like the whole morning. I usually kind of like spend some time meditating, but I was like getting that extremely aggressive energy. And then when you get aggressive energy, of course you get like these kind of like comments that go like, okay, let's kind of like storm down somebody. So I kind of like had this attitude. But then again, we had the ice cream truck going through it. And I know some people really get upset when they see Safi. I can read this without cards. It's just like you will find it's weird. Like just people standing and talking and saying they're psychic. It's quite weird, right? To me, this is art therapy. Each card is a really good archetype. And we can really connect. We all have different layers and they manifest to greater or lesser extent at each point. So these are really kind of like strong energies. This is actually even going to the next level, right? You also have the stork, which is kind of like a wind, and the whip is also wind energy, right? So it is kind of like really interesting. The King of Swords is also kind of like talking about some kind of like legalese. So that kind of like aggressive energy is also merged with this ice cream truck, mellow energy. Kind of like maybe you guys need a boost. And that would make sense. You did not have a lot of good experiences in the last while. So, hey Snow White, your prince kissed you right now and you're like full of life all over again. And we have another 9 on the other side of this, reversed. And this kitty over here is a seasoned warrior. But look at this. Do you think this kitty is giving up? Look at this fire. So you have a fire, fire, air, 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 air. And you know fire and air can be very combustive. And it can create all these kind of fires in California and everything. So you can see why I'm saying the energy is out of balance, but luckily you have water to go to. See, this kitty here goes and says, you know what, I have been in battle. I have kind of like my notches over here. I have collected things, but I am going to continue one more step. Maybe there is a hesitation, but it's kind of like weird. It came like reversed, but kind of like it was flicking toward upright. So I really think that there is like still this dedication. It's like something that has been upsetting you that you kind of like want to file away. This is like clearly maybe something was like just too much. Like it's like a nightmare. You have a nightmare, it's a high intensity, you wake up, you really don't want to go back to that nightmare. Because I see here either a couple that is no longer together, that kind of like maybe a failed reconciliation that was like very upsetting, and you're already in the mood, I would say in the mood for love. You're in the mood of kind of like you're realizing past is the past, sort of a thing, right? It's kind of like really, really strange. Did I pull out another card? Yeah, no, I didn't. And then, these are your emotions. And I have the second card in this deck. That's a blindfold. See, in this particular card, the kitty is in a tree crown and trying to climb down, but it was like reversed. It is good when it's reversal because it talks about not feeling stuck. It's literally getting unstuck, because right now this is basically the ground and it's easier to go forward instead of like not having this known. So that unknown and uncertainty was really, really difficult for you. So that instinct card is probably talking about it. You really had to. It was like purposely done for you to tap into your instincts. And instincts should tell you who are the right people for you, who are two-faced people for you, who are the people who are just like simply pretending to be your friends. Are you really good to some people who just like simply just like bite you in turn? So this is the environment. So somebody, and again, somebody's offering love. Love, love, love. Well, that's kind of like good, because you kind of like were like out on a limb, wondering how to handle the situation, and you kind of like pulled yourself to the safety, meaning you stabilized, meaning que sera sera kind of a thing, right? But like somebody is showing up here. Now, when I talk about the past lovers and past lives, this is a tricky part, because you might be completely single and you might not have anybody on the horizon, and you would say, what the heck are you talking about? Well, part of this karma is to resolve certain issues and patterns, and we repeat and repeat and repeat. And the way we people are, we meet somebody, we have good experience, bad experience, we say, well, this was good, this was bad, I'm going to take the good with me, I'm going to leave bad aside. This is not how it works. It's not how it can work. We think it works this way, and then in the next relationship, well, this person had these bad parts, and I'm going to, right, this person was a cheater, this person really didn't call me, etc., etc. So in the next experience, you, of course, you're not dumb, you're not going to kind of like repeat that. So this person is like simply wonderful. He spends the whole night hugging you, and you come home the next day and he cleans the whole kind of like place. You're like so excited, and then he kind of like goes home and you realize he robbed you of the money, right? So it could be that the shift is creating almost like a different, basically, facet of the same experience that we need to learn. So it's much better to learn the experience than just keep meandering and trying to find that kind of like pleasure, kind of like driven things. So we are going to see what is this all about. I can't wait to clarify that, and I'm really dragging this reading. And we have another moon. Moon, moon, moon. And of course, the Chariot is ruled by the moon. It's the Cancer, and we have Pisces. We have like lots of water energy. Remember how I was saying when people are dying? Well, this is the card that really talks about this tunnel. That is literally, like if you take my tarot class, you're going to learn this, right? These are the pearly gates. That's kind of like where you go through. And these are these kind of like stuff that comes in life. How many lives do you have? Do you really waste it barking on the moon? Or just like this lobster is really getting it, well, actually the pathway goes this way. this can be reversed. So there is like this essence of clarity. Look at this is 9, and this is 9, and this is 18, 1 and 8 is 9 as well. It's kind of like a very powerful reading, guys. That means you're literally putting the bow on certain things in a kind of like really complete way. You are not simply kind of like just taking a piece but not carrots kind of like on your plate. So where is this heading? It's kind of interesting because we also had the Queen of Wands like as the last card. See again the past. So going back to these past lives, or kind of like somebody from the past. It could be somebody from a past life. It could be just kind of like a different person and almost like very similar experience that happens. So King of Wands and Queen of Wands. So that's that ex-partner. There is like still some kind of like thing. Remember my little kind of like helper that is kind of like sleeping over here? Well, let's talk about this guy because he has something to say. It's kind of like the person who basically is right up your alley. It's kind of like doing the stuff, you like to do it, but it looks like you have somebody else on the side who is maybe still not revealing it might happen in this moment. But this person is just like the person who is going to really hardcore press you. He's going to tell you everything that he wants to, and then kind of like, hey, I don't think so. So that's kind of like what happens when the court card reverse. It's kind of like generating really, really bizarre energy. It just like makes you to the point that like your hair stands up. You just like, you want to just jump out of your skin. But it's also telling me that it's going to be a sense of feeling, you might even be attacked that you are the one who has wronged somebody, that you are the one who manipulated. Because whenever the moon card is here, that's like, we're talking about the jealousy, we're talking about the intrigues. It could be like there is another person here, like this person, this King of Cups standing. Because, oh my God, how many people do I have? Queen and King and Queen and King. They're like all very, very strong people. They're all kind of like forming their own, let's say, kind of couples or tandems. This one is standing on its own. And maybe like with this person, maybe you're like, maybe you're dreaming about somebody. Maybe this is just the person you really, really want. Maybe you're like tired of this hustle and bustle of relationships. But, you know, it's kind of like hard to change. We kind of like get almost like programmed to do it. So let me clarify a few things. I'm kind of like glad that this is in the past, but okay, why a fear? Why is a fear affecting you? So let's see, why are these two cards here for my Arieses? Let me just lift this for you a little bit. Why is that here for Arieses? Is that the plural Arieses? I hope so. Okay, let's grab these three cards. You have the Death, you have Young Woman, and you have Melancholy. Well, that is self-explanatory. Something ending, right? And something could be ending like, well, Young Woman has multiple meanings. Of course, she can be somebody you're involved with, especially if you're a guy. You might be involved with a younger partner, and hence a young woman is actually showing up. It can actually really talk about children. Maybe there is a breakup, because also the King of Swords talks about kind of like judge-like thing, where conditions need to be met, where there are contracts and agreements, and maybe you keep kind of like revisiting stuff like that, right? But this can also be damsel in distress. Maybe you're tired of saving somebody all the time. Maybe somebody's literally sort of like childish, right? But this also talks about flirtation, flirtation kind of a thing, right? It's kind of like vitality, but again, something that really needs to grow into something mature. Just like this Ace of Cups, it kind of like does have that lovey-dovey energy, but it doesn't have this maturity. This is the utmost emotional maturity in this particular card, right? But it also talks about insecurity, or maybe something that was like really good kind of like really ended before it had any chance to kind of like move forward, and maybe somebody was just simply unreliable, kind of like, you know, all the stuff, and it's kind of like giving you this feeling of melancholy over here. And I guess that would kind of like explain, kind of like you felt, I don't know, what can I do in this situation, this person needs to grow up, kind of a thing, right? Which kind of like is really that good instinctual kind of like thing to move in that direction. So let's check this one out. Why is this Ace of Cups here for Aries? Ace of Cups. You have Thief and Sights and Haughtiness. Very strange combination. Even stranger that this is coming as a kind of clarification. I'm wondering if you guys are really hesitant in actually opening yourself up to anybody, and that's maybe why you have make the effort. It almost looks like you don't want to make an effort. Look at this peacock. Like, how many peacocks can we get in this reading? Guys, these are like weirdo peacocks, like kind of like running this kind of like, you know, chariot, kind of like running them in a ditch. They don't want to open this beautiful kind of like feathers. And this one here is also kind of like, oh, I'm so pretty. Sides here, it's kind of like interesting card. Look, she has a message, but she is sad. She definitely is losing something. And Thief also is reinforcing this kind of a thing. But I really believe this is really saying to you that you really need to, maybe you feel that your wings got clipped a little bit, right? That kind of, it really talks about the superiority and pride, right? Or lack of humility. And I really think that's kind of like waking up in you. This is not your energy. Your energy is aggressive, strong, very masculine energy, right? And the energies that are opening up and something that is coming in here is going to be way different. It's going to be almost like easy for you to kind of like miss it, right? Because this is also telling me that you will have probably many suitors, and maybe that's because you will be announcing, I'm free. I'm dating again, I'm moving on, kind of like things are now in the past, right? But I'm also still seeing that there is like still kind of like a lacking a physical interaction. Yeah, I do see possible the exes might be kind of like peaking, and there might be heated arguments, and somebody definitely wants to come back. Now, if you guys are looking for a new job, because this is really talking about new beginnings, this is your environment, and this is like something really new, then I really think it's really possible. You might have really successful interviews. And also, like, I mean, clearly this is talking that if you have been lacking energy, that your physical health will be really, really good at this period of time. And lastly, why are these fire cards, the court cards, reversed here? Why is that reversed here for Aries? We have sweetheart in a prison and the house arrest or homebody. Pretty much it's really talking about somebody who is not seeing a solution, and that's kind of like really going back. So it's kind of like does have this flavor of 9 vibration, and at the time of this reading I'm still in September. It is reading for October, which definitely resonates with new beginnings and kind of like putting like new seeds together. But this is kind of like talking about that somebody from the past. I really think somebody will try to woo you, and you feel that possibly this person, I don't know, like as you kind of like had this like initial feeling, oh, this person is like not there, not mature enough, they don't know what they want, they're children. And it doesn't matter if you're 18 or 80, like, I mean, people can be childish, right, at any point, right? So But this is really generally talking about stable environment, that you're like really more than anything else like demanding that stability, right? And there is like this huge level of independence that basically is happening over here. But I really think, again, going back to this, that at this stage you're kind of like tired of some kind of like aggressive approaches and moving things fast. You're kind of like really looking, even though on some level you're still programmed to do that, and I can see that. And of course that fire can be activated any single time, but I really think that stability is going to be really, really wanted and needed. Mind you, the store can also talk about relocation and travel and kind of like doing things. And so I don't know if you're planning anything like that, kind of like really cover your tracks, because this Chariot reverse means that some kind of like travel might get postponed, might not happen, or some plans can get derailed. So my dear Aries, I actually did pull one more card for you, and this is to seal the reading. So hey, please give me your comments. Who the heck are all these people, and what are you moving from? Like, you're like so determined to kind of like in this like huge energy. You're almost like shedding your skin and moving into that completely kind of like new direction. It's absolutely amazing. So the card that you're getting is called Magical Map Shifter, but it came reversed. So let me read it for you. Reversed. The Magical Map Shifter card may bring you the opposite of what you seek. Perhaps you are in denial about your situation and refuse to see the truth. Or maybe you have been traveling down a path that has constantly led you to a field of poppies when you fell asleep and dream of desires that never find their form, pardon me. To have the life you really want, you must match its vibrational energy and resonate with it. Sometimes our greatest hurts and disappointments are what awaken us to our need to shift to a higher frequency. If your heart aches because someone is breaking it, this discomfort will lead you to a more authentic life. Don't linger in the pain or blame the magical map shifter for alerting you to the illusion you clung to. Know that treasure lies elsewhere and can be recovered once you heal the wound that is reflected in those who come to you as catalysts for growth. As you experience yourself transforming into the highest version of yourself, yay, that's what I see too, you'll come to understand that you're always fortunate when you meet up with a magical map shifter. One thing is missing over here, an ice cream truck. Guys, ice cream is going to be your friend this time around. Just kidding. You'll be actually very healthy in this period. So this is like really clearly what I was like saying earlier. You know, we learn from both good and bad experiences, but we learn more from bad experiences. And understanding that the wrinkles that we have and scars that we have, we need to honor because we conquered that situation is actually really, really powerful. So you're totally kind of like reaching some kind of like understanding about yourself, who stays and who goes, and you're kind of cleaning your list so your kind of like dance card can be filled all over again. So my dear Aries, this is enough for now. So please come on live reading to hopefully have a chance to win one of my free readings. And in the meantime, get your daily tarot fix on my Instagram and on my Facebook. Until the next time, bye bye. Take care, and I love you.